The discourse surrounding radio frequency identification, RFID, technology is a fascinating intersection of technological advancement and deeply rooted eschatological fears. For decades, a persistent narrative has woven these tiny microchips into a grand, ominous tapestry of global conspiracy and biblical prophecy. This theory posits that RFID chips are the prophesied mark of the beast, a tool for a future totalitarian world government to control every individual. The origins of this belief are complex, drawing from religious texts, Cold War-era paranoia, and a growing distrust of technological overreach. It taps into a primal fear of losing one's autonomy, identity, and soul to an unseen, all-powerful entity. The prophecy in question comes from the Book of Revelation, written by John of Patmos. It speaks of a mark on the right hand or forehead, without which no one can buy or sell. For believers in the conspiracy, the parallels with a potential cashless society powered by implantable microchips are too stark to ignore. We see the convenience of RFID as a seductive trap, the first step towards ultimate enslavement. The technology itself, however, had far more mundane beginnings. RFIDs, the child of radar technology, developed during World War II. Its earliest ancestor was the Identify Friend or FOPAP system, used by the British Royal Air Force in 1939 to identify friendly aircraft. This system used radio waves to receive a signal back from a transponder on the aircraft, confirming its identity. It was a matter of survival, a way to distinguish ally from enemy in the chaotic skies over Europe. After the war, the potential for radio-based identification technology began to expand beyond military applications. Researchers and innovators started exploring how similar principles could be used for civilian purposes. The first patent for a passive radio transponder with memory was filed by Mario Cardullo in 1973, laying the groundwork for modern RFID. His vision was for a device that could act as a toll pass, a key, or even a portable medical record. The 1970s and 1980s saw slow but steady development in RFID technology, primarily for commercial and industrial use. Early applications included tracking cattle to manage large herds and monitoring shipping containers in transit. These chips were bulky, expensive, and limited in their capabilities, a far cry from the microscopic implants of conspiracy lore. They were practical tools for solving logistical problems, increasing efficiency in industries that relied on tracking large volumes of items. The idea of implanting them in humans was largely confined to the realm of science fiction. Yet, the cultural anxieties of the Cold War were simmering. Fears of government surveillance, nuclear annihilation, and the rise of a godless, collectivist state were rampant. It was in this fertile ground of suspicion that the mark of the beast theory began to take root and merge with emerging technologies. Christian evangelists and authors in the late 20th century began to connect the dots between biblical prophecy and current events. They pointed to the rise of global institutions, the development of universal product codes, barcodes, and the increasing computerization of society as signs of the end times. The barcode, in particular, was an early focus of suspicion, with some claiming the lines corresponded to the number 666. When RFID technology became more widely known, it was seen as the next logical and more sinister. It was personal. It could be hidden under the skin, and it represented a permanent, unremovable form of identification. Books and films produced within these communities painted vivid, terrifying pictures of a future where Christians were persecuted for refusing the mandatory implant. This narrative was powerful, blending ancient scripture with modern anxieties to create a compelling and frightening vision of the near future. As technology progressed into the 21st century, RFID chips became smaller, cheaper, and more powerful. Their adoption exploded across countless industries. They are now embedded in our passports, credit cards, library books, and retail products. They streamline supply chains, prevent theft, and offer keyless entry to our cars and homes. This ubiquity, however, only fueled the conspiracy theories further. Every new application was seen as another step in the conditioning process, making the public more accepting of the eventual human implant. The development of NFC, near-field communication, a form of RFID used in smartphones for contactless payments, was viewed as a particularly insidious development. It placed the mechanism for a cashless society directly into the hands of billions of people, normalizing the very behavior the prophecy described. Proponents of the technology argue that these fears are wildly overblown, a misunderstanding of both the technology and its purpose. They emphasize that most RFID chips are passive, meaning they have no internal power source and can only be read from a very short distance. The idea of a global satellite system tracking billions of individual chips is, they argue, a technological impossibility and a logistical nightmare. They point to the immense benefits of RFID, from locating lost pets with implanted microchips to ensuring the safety of medical patients by providing instant access to their health records in an emergency. For them, RFID is not a tool of oppression but one of convenience, efficiency, and safety. It is simply the next evolution of identification, a step beyond the driver's license or the social security number. The debate also highlights a fundamental divide in how people view the relationship between technology and humanity. On one side are the tech optimists, who see innovation as a primary driver of human progress. They believe that new tools, including RFID, can solve some of our most pressing problems and create a better world for everyone. They trust in regulatory frameworks and ethical guidelines to prevent misuse. On the other side are the skeptics and critics, who are warier of the unintended consequences of rapid technological change. They worry about the erosion of privacy, the potential for surveillance, and the concentration of power in the hands of those who control the technology. For this group, the mark of the beast is a powerful metaphor for the dehumanizing potential of a world where every person is to a data point in a system. The conversation has become even more complex with the rise of biohacking and human augmentation. A small but growing community of individuals voluntarily implants RFID and NFC chips into their hands. They use them to unlock doors, store data, and even make payments with a wave of their hand. For these pioneers, it is the ultimate expression of personal freedom and control over their own bodies and data. They reject the notion that it is a mark of enslavement, arguing instead that it is a form of empowerment. This voluntary adoption complicates the conspiracy narrative, which relies on the idea of a mandatory, forced implant. If people are choosing to be chipped, does that negate the prophecy? Or is it an even more subtle form of deception? The historical context of the mark of the beast prophecy is also crucial. Most biblical scholars interpret the mark not as a literal piece of technology, but as a symbolic representation of allegiance. In the time of the Roman Empire, citizens were required to make offerings to the emperor as a god. The mark was likely a metaphor for participating in this imperial cult, a choice that would have been anathema to early Christians. It was about declaring one's loyalty, either to God or to the worldly power of the state. In this view, the obsession with a specific technology like RFID misses the point of the original text. The real mark is a matter of the heart and of one's actions, not a microchip under the skin. Despite these rational explanations and historical interpretations, The conspiracy theory endures. It is a testament to the power of narrative and the persistence of fear in the face of profound societal change. The theory provides a simple, albeit terrifying, explanation for a world that often feels chaotic and out of control. In an age of information overload and digital abstraction, the idea of a physical, tangible mark of evil has a visceral appeal. It is a story that has been told and retold for generations, adapting its details to fit the technology of the times. COVID-19 pandemic added a new and potent layer to the conspiracy. False claims circulated widely that vaccines contained microchips developed by global elites to track and control the population. The pandemic response, with its lockdowns, mandates and digital health passes, was seen by many as the perfect pretext for implementing the prophesied system of control. The rhetoric of no jab, no job was directly equated with the biblical warning of no mark, no trade. Yasin, Nirand. This fusion of health policy with eschatological prophecy brought the RFID conspiracy from the fringes into the mainstream discourse. It demonstrated how quickly and effectively these long-standing fears could be mapped onto new and frightening global events. The debate is not merely a theological or technological one. It is deeply political. The conspiracy theory is often intertwined with populist and anti-globalist movements. It reflects a profound distrust of governments, international organizations, corporations, and the mainstream media. The mark of the beast narrative becomes a powerful tool for political mobilization, framing political opponents as agents of a satanic global conspiracy. It simplifies complex geopolitical and economic issues into a battle between good and evil, the people versus the powerful. This politicization makes rational discussion about the actual risks and benefits of RFID technology incredibly difficult. Looking to the future, the lines will likely only become more blurred. Technologies like brain-computer interfaces and advanced biometrics will present new and even more profound questions about identity, autonomy, and control. As our bodies and our technologies become increasingly integrated, the fears that animate the RFID conspiracy will find new forms of expression. The core anxiety is not about the chip itself, but about what it represents, the potential for a future where human freedom is subordinate to technological control. It is fear of a world where our inner lives are no longer private and our choices are no longer our own. Ultimately, the story of the RFID microchip conspiracy is a story about meaning. It is about how we as a society grapple with technologies that challenge our understanding of what it means to be human. It is a clash between faith and secularism, between trust in progress and fear of the unknown. Whether seen as the mark of the beast or simply the next step in a long history of technological tools, the RFID chip forces us to confront our deepest hopes and fears for the future of humanity. The conversation it sparks, while often fraught with misinformation, is a necessary one. It pushes us to think critically about the world we are building and the values we want to preserve. The tiny chip becomes a massive mirror, reflecting our anxieties about power, control, and the very nature of our souls in an increasingly technological age. Narrative continues to evolve, a modern myth playing out in real time. It is a stark reminder that for every technological solution, there's a corresponding human fear. The question of trust remains at the heart of the matter. Who do we trust to wield these powerful new tools? And what safeguards are in place to protect our fundamental freedoms? The answers to these questions will shape our future far more than any single piece of technology. The conspiracy is a symptom of a deeper societal unease. It is a call to examine the ethical dimensions of innovation. The debate will rage on, as long as technology continues to advance. The fear of the mark is a fear of losing ourselves. It is a fear of a world without choice. A world where the soul is bartered for convenience. This is the enduring power of the prophecy. It speaks to a timeless human struggle. The struggle between freedom and control. The struggle between faith and the tangible world. And so, the microchip remains a potent symbol. A symbol of progress for some, and a symbol of perdition for others. The final chapter of this story has yet to be written. It will be shaped by the choices we make today. Technology is neutral, but its application is not. The future is in our hands, not in the chip. We must choose wisely, for the stakes are higher than they have ever been. The soul of humanity hangs in the balance. The debate is a crucible for our values. It forces us to define what we hold sacred, and what we are willing to sacrifice for progress. The path forward is uncertain, but the conversation is essential. It is the only way to navigate the complex ethical landscape of the 21st century. We must engage with these fears, not dismiss them. For in them, we find a reflection of our own humanity, and a warning for the future we are creating. The story of the mark is a cautionary tale. A tale as old as time, retold for a new age. An age of wonders and of terrors. An age of unprecedented connection and potential control. The chip is but a catalyst for a much larger conversation. A conversation about our shared future. A conversation that we must all be a part of.